Hi everyone, I wanted to walk you through the digital version of the mitosis lesson. This is the mitosis lesson using Google Slides as a way to present it to students in a digital format. A couple of changes that I've made to my interactive science notebook that I wanted to focus on first. I have gotten rid of the 2-page setup on each slide. I found that it was just easier for students to do a whole slide, and so that does look different. So the table of contents is set up a little different as well. So now it's organized by slide number as opposed to page number, and I think I'm finding that this works better for most students, so hopefully you will find that as well. Now, walking you through the mitosis lesson itself, one thing I want to make sure I focus on here for both the digital version and the PDF version, I really take to heart the NGSS spirit of really focusing on the process of mitosis and not so much the vocabulary. So you'll notice that on these lessons, both PDF and digital, the vocabulary has been taken out. So there's not really a focus on the names of the stages, but more the process, what happens at each stage, and most importantly, what is the final outcome of mitosis. I really think that that's important, and that gets to the spirit of what should be focused on at the middle school level. I think high school biology is a better time for students to focus on the names of those processes and a little bit more detail about what happens at each stage. So you will notice that the stages, it really is an overview of what happens to the chromosomes in each of those stages of mitosis. The focus is on the outcome, and the vocabulary has been taken away. That doesn't mean you can't add it back in, but that's the way I've designed these lessons, just so that you know. So students will start with a reading passage about what happens when cells die. So this really takes to heart that idea that cells are living things, which means that they can consequently die. And as living things, they also reproduce, which is how they pass down their genetic information. And so then that takes us into the idea of mitosis and that process and how cells go about making copies of their chromosomes and then delivering that copy to an entire new cell that is the daughter cell of the original cell, making that copy through the process of mitosis. They have some reading passage questions, just going through and looking at what they pulled from the reading, what were the important pieces from the reading. In each of the reading passages, just to go back really quick, there is a highlighter bar at the bottom, and so they can use that to highlight their material here. They can also create text boxes to write notes as they are reading. I really like to emphasize these two ways of doing digital note-taking for students. They, of course, can always take notes on a separate piece of paper, but this is a really nice way to start getting them into that habit of taking digital notes. So they have their reading passage questions here, and then here for the rest of the slides they're really going to practice this process of mitosis, again without a focus on the names of the stages, but more focus on what's happening to the chromosomes during each of the stages. So in this first activity, they're going to have just a simple set of one set of chromosomes, 2 chromosomes that they're going to take through the process. In each of the slides, they have directions at the bottom about what to do in each step. So this next slide is step 1. So they're going to make copies of these 2 chromosomes just like a cell would, move it into their step 1 box. So they're going to take these 2, literally drag them over, and then make a copy of it just like would happen in a cell. Then drag the other one over, make a copy of it. In the next step, you'll see that the circle 1 has already been completed for it, because now they're going to take step 1 and move it into step 2. So they're going to take these chromosomes, they're going to move them over to step 2 and line them up in the middle. Step 3, step 4, and step 5. And so ultimately they're going to end up with their chromosomes in 2 new cells, both of them looking like the original. And then what's really cool about this, what they can do next is they can select present up here at the top. They can present from slides 11 to 15 or 10 from 15, and they can actually see an animation of the cell going through the process of mitosis, which is a really nice feature of doing this digitally. From there, students will do a review on what they learned. So this is set up to be sort of like a review worksheet where they're going to fill in each of the circles. So this one worksheet will show each of the stages and what the chromosomes look like at each stage. There's also room at the bottom for them to complete captions so that they can write what actually happens to the chromosomes at each stage, and again re-emphasize and refocus on what's happening to the chromosomes during the process of mitosis. They have a few more recap worksheets. So in these worksheets, the focus is really on the product of mitosis, what occurs at the end of mitosis. So here, asking a few questions: what do you start with? What do you end with? In here, a visual form showing, if I start with this, how will it end for mitosis? And a written form. If I start with this, if I start with a human cell, what does it end with? If I start with a chicken cell, what does it end with? So they've got a few reviews there. And then finally, the last little activity, this is an opportunity for them to set it up completely on their own. So they can use the chromosomes that they have on the side here. They can create any kind of starting cell they want, whether it has 2 to 8 chromosomes. And then they're going to take that cell through the process of mitosis one slide at a time. On each slide, you'll notice there's a place at the bottom for them to write in the step. And so they'll just take it through. What's really nice about this last activity is you as the teacher can actually use this as an assessment for your students, and you can give them a few options. So they can do it just as the slide form where they're just going through and showing each of the chromosomes at each stage and writing the steps. They can also present it and then record it and do a narration, so they can actually make their own movie of mitosis, which is a lot of fun for a lot of students and a nice way to allow students some opportunities to present their information in different ways. So this last piece, I like to use it as an assessment. I think it's a great way for students to assess their knowledge on mitosis. I hope that that lesson works well for you. I hope that you enjoy it and that it works well for your students. I'd love to hear back from you and hear how it works. Enjoy the lesson.